Hey, welcome to the Building a Bulletproof Back podcast. Guess where we are? We're at CrossFit Margaret River doing the first ever on location recording.
Wow, that's exciting.
It is, and I've got Ben Robinson, who along with his beautiful partner Nick own and operate CrossFit Margaret River. And so I thought Ben would be a really good person to talk to this week for several reasons. Ben, I'm not sure that you even know the intention of this podcast, but basically we talk to either back pain sufferers who've managed to find a way to get out of the nightmare and improve their pain status and their functional status, and they come on and talk about their story and the tips and the tricks and the things they learned along the way. Or I interview people like yourself, people who run movement studios or who are manual therapists who work with people with a movement discipline that may benefit someone in back pain. So I suppose we should kick off by letting you have a chat about how you came to be involved in CrossFit, why you love it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Maz, for having me on. My wife, Nicole, got me into CrossFit. She was a little bit overweight and didn't.
I can't imagine that.
And she just didn't really have health as a focus in her life. And
Wow.
I was working away at the time. And every time I'd come home, she would talk about this CrossFit. And slowly I saw her body change and her attitude change to health and fitness. And I never liked the gym, being a tall, skinny guy.
Yeah.
I never really liked that scene much. And but after 18 months of her doing it, I thought I'd give it a go. And
only 18 months at all.
Took 18 months.
That's all right. She chipped away at you by the sounds of it.
Yeah, she slowly chipped away. She's good at that.
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed it. I've got a passion for surfing as well, and mental health. And I thought that CrossFit served a really good purpose for helping people in their sport, but also helping people with helping support good mental health.
Yeah. Okay, well, I suppose it's that classic strong body, strong mind. The two kind of go together sometimes.
Yeah, and I didn't find at CrossFit gyms, the ego that sort of comes sometimes in some conventional style gym settings. Everyone just seemed to want to improve their health and fitness, and I like that, being someone who's been in health and fitness for a long time.
Do you think the vibe of the CrossFit studio is a little bit a response to the leader of the CrossFit gym? So would you say like your vibe here is really, I would say 100% like that? No one's trying to outshine anyone with heavier weights. It's a really non-competitive space, which I really enjoy. But is that because of you and Nick, or have you encountered other CrossFit places that are the opposite? Yeah,
and I say that to people, and I'm sure some conventional gyms wouldn't have that as well. I think what CrossFit does well is they're smaller places, and the people who own them usually train there too, and that flows over into the culture of the people who come. Whereas sometimes the bigger style gyms are owned by investors who don't actually train and be up there most days.
Yeah.
But you're right. I'm not saying that all CrossFit gyms have a great culture. Some I've been to, I kind of look at them like coffee shops. We're all selling coffee of sorts.
Yeah.
And some coffee places you go to or shop and you go, wow, I'll go back there and have a coffee. But other coffee shops you're like, I probably wouldn't go back there.
Yeah.
So I just say shop around
shop around, because I think, and I'm guilty of this. Sometimes CrossFit has copped a little bit of bad press in the past, and
for sure.
It's just like anything. If you judge it by what you hear without going to the bricks and mortar establishment and talking to the people and doing your own research, it's really hard to know which of those categories it fits into. But have you personally had any back pain, Ben?
Not really. I've hurt my back surfing one time, and I was surfing a wave that was quite hollow, and I slammed down on the sand really heavily, and had to get carried up the beach. And I would say that CrossFit probably helped me with that impact, that trauma. Had I had that trauma, 5 or 6 years ago when I was just sort of getting into CrossFit, I think it might have been different. So yeah, I haven't really had, I've actually, I've had people who've come to me with back pain before, and after some sessions, a few months, they just say, oh, the back pain's not there anymore.
Yeah, great. So tell us about the pathways, because that's what I've been really impressed with. It's not like someone can just walk in off the street and start. Like, there's a really lovely pathway to actually, before you can even get into a class. Just talk to us about and that's a safety mechanism, really. So talk to us about how you keep people safe when they first come to you. Yeah,
and you're right in saying that CrossFit does have a bad rap in certain places and online. There's a bunch of CrossFit fail videos that I still get tagged in from my friends.
I bet you love that.
Yeah, meanwhile, they're tagging me in the failed CrossFit videos, and they're choosing some pretty unhealthy lifestyle choices themselves. That's a different story. So yeah, not all CrossFit gyms are the same too. So we use an on-ramp. We call it Pathway to CrossFit, because people often want to just jump into a group class. And when we were smaller, we found that worked well. But now that we're a little bit bigger, we just find that we can have a better one-on-one with people and just really find out what their goals are and how they move, and they've got past injuries. And so, in the intro, I found out that people are pregnant. They're 4 months pregnant, and they want to.
Worth knowing about.
Yeah. So obviously who'd never done CrossFit before, we said, once you've had bub and got the approval from your physio, then come and have a chat to us.
Yeah. I think the other thing you guys do really well is the personality profiling as a really good way of identifying. There's the high wind door opening. As a really good way of identifying who is, there's it shutting.
Yeah.
Our nature of how we move and our personalities sometimes lead us into high risk, and we're more likely to injure ourselves just purely based on our personalities. And you guys assess that even.
Yeah, so we use a profiling tool called e-colors. So we always say that we're more than just a gym. So I want to look at us as like a coaching practice that, so when a person comes in, we give them it's an option. Not everyone does it. Some people don't like to do the profiling tool, but it just puts people into areas that are more likely to hurt themselves sometimes. Like you and I, we're both yellow reds, and yellow reds are high risk takers. Prior to CrossFit, the only time I slowed down was when I hurt myself.
Yeah.
And so coming into CrossFit, I had to, have a choice to say, well, if I'm going to do this sport that some people say is dangerous, I better go into it with some respect.
Yeah, and I certainly, you've observed me. I had that anxiety about the weights, and probably still do. It's a healthy anxiety. It's
definitely.
This is a weight. I'm not going to be an idiot about it. I'm not going to load it up until I have good form. And interestingly, even as a person who's done so many different movement disciplines, the movements are complicated in terms of, and I was thinking about it before, what is actually complicated about them. It's the sequencing and the timing.
Yes.
And you can't really, and the way you sequence and time will be different when there's a heavy load on the end, when there's a light load.
Yeah.
And, when we're trying to learn the form and technique, it's a light load. So it all feels really weird. But I can imagine that's a process of discipline to stay within that framework of, I'm not going to the heavy stuff until I've nailed the form, the timing, and the technique with the bar even. Yeah,
definitely. One of my old coaches used to say, just because you can lift it doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, great one.
And we use a model of technique first, then consistently good movement. So, if the lift is getting, or the movement is being done well, so technique, then consistency of that technique, and then intensity.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, and I'm a guy, so I admit it, most guys will go the other way. More girls do CrossFit than men.
Interesting.
And the average CrossFit is a 37-year-old mother worldwide.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Yeah, wow. That
Yep.
shocked me actually. I thought it was more male dominant, to be honest.
No,
Yeah,
we're
wow.
60. We're about 60% women at the moment.
Yeah, right.
It ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
But worldwide, more women do it.
Yeah.
And so technique, consistency, and intensity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you go the other way, it usually leads to injury.
Yeah.
So you come in, try and lift as heavy as you can.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like Monique, one of my coaches, Monique, excellent. She moves very well now, and she's done that the whole time.
Yeah.
And she's now pretty much the strongest lady in the gym.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, can you just talk us through what an actual workout looks like? Because even that, I thought you'd come in and you'd be slammed for an hour and then you walk out, but it's quite segmented, isn't it, in terms of the aspects of fitness that you're working on?
Yeah. So we try to if you try and be slammed for an hour, it would lose intensity. So we try and break it up into a few parts. So part A, B, and C. CrossFit gyms will take a little, some different ways, but this is how we do it. A is just mobility, and we'll might use a ball or a band or some dynamic stretching to get the body moving through its planes. The second part will be a strength. So we always use some kind of strength movement before the sweaty part.
Yeah.
And the sweaty part's usually called the WOD or the Metcon. And that's just, can be heavy, it can be fast, but it sets us up to see if anyone's going to have some issues for the WOD coming up. So if it's overhead squats in the strength and someone's really tight through their thoracic spine, we'll get to them before they get to the WOD and say, let's put you into a front squat instead of an overhead squat. Yeah. So we don't compromise your lower back.
Yeah. So there's options all the way through, really, isn't there?
Yeah, and we try and keep it small classes so that we can get to you before you might do something that might hurt you. Yeah.
The way I see it fitting in, clients have asked me, about CrossFit, and I've always said, basically, this is where I factor it in. I think, okay, if you're stable in your pain, in terms of you're out of the acute phase, you feel like you're making some good progress, you're less fearful of moving, you're starting to have more confidence in just being able to move without your pain spiking. So things like you can walk. And so this is about people in persistent chronic pain. This whole podcast is not about your person who goes out in the garden, does a bit much, and a week later they're fine. These are for people that have been in it for 3, 6, 8, sometimes years, let alone months, and they've lost usually any confidence in moving whatsoever. And so I like to get people to a stage where they can walk, feel comfortable walking, they can swim or bike ride, and they're feeling confident, but they're not strong. So they're moving well, they know how to move their pelvis in 8 different directions, they know how to center that pelvis on their feet, and they're a little bit stable with some basic movements. Then it's like, right, now you've got to get strong. So, that's kind of where I see CrossFit coming into it. And I think, it is another great option because it's functional, it's varied, it's monitored, it's progressive, and these, if you talk to us about the different forms of lifting. Yeah. So what have we got?
We've got powerlifting here. So powerlifting is your deadlift, your squat, and your bench press or floor press. Yeah. So they're kind of like a slower strength kind of movement. Yeah. And then we've got Olympic lifting, and that's your clean and jerk and your snatch. Yeah. Which you see at the Olympics. Yeah. Which involves strength with speed. Yeah. Yeah. So I would put them in a hierarchy. Exactly, yeah. Get used to those slower, more controlled ones first, get good form on those. Yeah, and then obviously once people get more comfortable with that, they can go higher. And yeah, depending on the person who comes in, they're like, oh, my hip's a bit sore at the moment. And say we're doing snatch, I would say, well, why don't we scale it back to deadlift today? And so they can slow it down and do good movement rather than maybe making things worse. Yeah.
And if you think about in your assessments of people coming in, are there really patterns of dysfunction in movement that you see like repeated a lot? You know, like I could think of, you know, ankle mobility is a big one I see.
Chest, spine.
Yeah, thoracic mobility, shoulder mobility. Or are there sort of things that you think you've made patterns in your own associations with looking at people move?
Yeah, I mean, ankles, a lot of people have tight ankles, hip flexors, tight hips. As soon as you put someone into an overhead squat, it becomes pretty apparent where they're tight. Or you ask them, you know, where does that feel tight? And they'll tell you. I don't really use functional movement screening, but I just use the movements we use in here as a way to determine their... They
show you a lot, don't they?
They show, yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of are movement screening really, just in a different way.
Yeah. Without the... Yeah.
Probably better than most physios actually, because most physios stand someone statically and, you know, they might ask them to touch their toes or do a side bend or one rotation, but how often in our day-to-day life do we actually do those movements in that way? We don't tend to. So, you know, these functional assessment patterns sometimes show us a lot more about our ability to move load in our day, which is when back pain usually shows up.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm so grateful that you've come and you know, you're with CrossFit Margaret River at the moment and for who knows how long, because we've got a few physios here now, and we've got a couple of remedial massage therapists in the team, athletes and things. So it gives having a real mix of professionals in a class is helpful for just a number of things, like you know, physios. We're definitely not trying to take the physio role. We want to stay in our lane and refer when pain persists.
But I mean, physios aren't really good at making someone stronger.
That's where we come in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's, I mean, I actually shouldn't say that. There's probably physios that specialise in that.
Yeah.
But in my mode of head, when I get someone aligned and moving well with quality, then I handball for them to get into a space like this where they can be strengthened, you know, either with an exercise phys or something like CrossFit. But strength is a really important part of maybe not getting out of the pain, because I think there's simpler things that help people get out of the pain, but definitely staying well and being able to do all the things they want to do well. They need that raw strength, which they've usually lost in the phase when they were fearful to move and everything was really awful. But it takes courage from someone to go from that to walk into a space like this and go,
and that's exactly.
I'm fit. And I walked in and went, holy crap!
And
look
the
at
same.
the size of these weights.
We understand that, and that's why we start people one-on-one, and try and destigmatize a lot of the stuff that can be found online with anything. You know, like you get a rash in your leg and you start to Google it. You know, next minute you think you've got AIDS or something. Like, so I mean, sometimes you just got to bring yourself into a place like this and get an idea, your own idea of your own experience.
Yes.
And, you know, I say that CrossFit is not for everyone, but anyone can do it.
Yeah.
So sometimes, you know, we have intros where people come in one-on-one and they say to me they just want to get massive, they want to lift heavy weights, and you know, and at the end of it, I just say, you know, I don't think we're the right fit for you.
Yeah. Well, you've got to protect your own selves with injury risk and things like that as well.
And it's a screening process for me as it is for them, because I know as soon as we start doing cardio, someone like that's going to be like, well, I just came here to lift heavy.
Yeah.
And they can do that in another setting.
Yeah.
And same likewise, sometimes we get people saying, I'm never going to lift heavy weights. And I know we do lift heavy weights from time to time, so I just got to spell it out. And you know, I'd rather work with a small group of people well than people I don't even know. That's another feature of a CrossFit gym usually.
Yeah. And so if we're going to just a few final questions. When I say bulletproof back, what comes to mind? What do you envisage? What do you think a bulletproof back looks like and feels like?
Yeah, someone who moves well. So they've had some kind of coaching or understanding of good functional movement of a spine. And someone who, if they have got chronic pain or have got pain at all, they're happy to seek help from others and spend the money on. We had that conversation one time about people are easily spend $600 on getting their car serviced.
Yeah. Which you can trade in and offload and resell and get a new one.
Yeah.
But their body,
and
which
then
is with them for life, they quibble about a few
$90 for a physio
wow.
or $60 a week for CrossFit. It's like, well, you've just spent $600 on a car that's not even part of you.
Yeah.
Someone who's their own, who seek help is another. If I'm getting off the topic, so someone who moves well or knows how to move well.
I think you're moving into what are your top 3 tips?
Oh, okay. So someone who moves well or knows or has had some coaching from a physio or a functional coach on about what good movement is.
Right. Because you're right. That people really don't know what good movement, what quality movement means. You can see it. Someone who's trained in what good movement looks like can see it, from a mile away.
Yeah.
Because they know what to look for. But if you've never been encouraged to explore what's possible or even know what your pelvis can do, and I always talk about the pelvis rather than the back.
Yeah.
Because, we've got our little, as my guest last week made this great analogy about a waiter's tray balancing on 2 stacks of cups, and then on that is what our spine sits. And if that tray isn't nice and stable, then this spine is never going to be able to do what we need it to do. So I think quality movement is as a self-exploration again, you can look at it, you can know what it should be, but if you can't feel it in your own body, you rarely have it. And that in itself is a whole. That's what I spend all day with people. That part of it to me is the bit that if they can in their own bodies feel where they can't go, and then all of a sudden what's possible they can do on the other side, and they start to think, wow, I didn't notice any of that before. Once they can have that experience and learn, then they feel doing everything in balance between left and right. Pretty much I feel like that's it. You're done. You've got it. Now you just got to go and get it strong and be mindful of your own patterns. And
it's not, the progress is not gonna look like this.
Yeah, good point.
It's injury in any sport, in running, surfing. I've had most injuries I've ever had is through surfing. And then my progress has fallen. And not that I'm a great surfer, but that taught me something, and then I used that. So happy to make a mistake and learn from it and grow from it. So I guess the 3 things would be good movement or have support, someone who can show you what good movement is.
Yeah.
The second thing on Bulletproof Your Back is have it strong. So if you come and have an injury or fall over or hurt yourself on a reef or hit a tree mountain biking, you've got something in you that there's a strong foundation there.
Yeah. Because I think you can heal the pain and be moving well, but you're not strong again.
Yeah.
And there's that window of vulnerability that if you don't just follow on into, and most people stop there actually, they're moving freer, there's not much pain or less pain, and they think, right, I'm home and hosed.
Yeah.
And I guess depends on what they want to do with that body as to how much strength they need. So if they don't want to do too much, that might be okay. But if they actually want to be full participants in their life and they want to dig in the garden and carry the grandkids and get on and off the floor and climb stairs and mountains, then that strength is a really useful part to add to the mix.
So I listened to a podcast one time, and someone was saying, "Oh, why do you have to do a 150 kilo deadlift? Why is that even? Who cares?"
Yeah.
And the one word is transfer. If you can lift 150 kilos in a deadlift in a sound and safe way, when you've got to chuck 30 kilos of groceries in the back of your car, you're operating at 20% of your capacity to lift.
Yeah.
So it's empowering for women and men who don't often lift in there every day, then go to an everyday use like groceries or something and can be strong. So
yeah,
they're I guess. And the last one would be have some kind of. So the first one was good quality movement, then build strength on top of that.
Yeah.
And the last one would be to have some kind of mental discipline or
I'm
practice.
glad you brought that in.
Yeah. So for me, it's mindfulness. So mindfulness is a great way to just get strong in mind.
Yeah. Have you seen many people in here that are physically strong, but mentally?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Exactly. So, and that comes back to this approach I have, that it needs to be mental, physical, and emotional. And I think we can. I've seen a lot of strong people who are miserable, and I've seen the opposite. I've seen a lot of weak people who are super happy. So, that trilogy of health, you got to have positive thinking. You got to have a happy existence in your emotional framework. And the physical structure of the body moving well and being strong is also vital. So, but they're not hard. Like, there's strategies for each of them when you recognise where you may be deficient.
And when you have a practice like mindfulness or meditation, where you can sit and wonder, well, what is it? If my intention is to become healthy and fit, what does that look like? Then these things come up. Well, I need to have a daily practice where I move often.
Yeah.
I need to eat well, and be a friend to myself.
Yeah.
Which is super important. Like,
it is.
When someone fails a lift in here, I'm looking at what their face is doing.
Yeah, right.
Because if they're down and out and saying fuck or whatever, or saying something bad about themselves.
So what does failing a lift look like? They try for a way,
like a heavy lift, and it doesn't work.
Okay, they can't quite get through the movement.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's taken me a long time to understand as well that, I didn't get it this time.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean next time I won't.
Yeah.
And so if I didn't get it this time, my favourite saying at the moment is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. When you have a step back in life, know that 2 steps forward is coming.
Yeah.
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 It's a good mantra.
And you probably learn more from the step back than you do from the step forward.
Every day of the week.
Yeah, so you've got to welcome both sides of that stepping, don't you?
Exactly, yeah. It's through our setbacks that we grow.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good. All right, so any final words? Let's just, if you got any final piece of advice for that person listening who may be feeling a little bit ready, like they want to come and get a bit stronger in their spines. If they were going to go like, I'm happy in Margs, they're safe and they're secure. But if they're not in Margs and they're thinking of visiting a CrossFit centre somewhere else in the world, what sort of things would you have them be mindful of to walk into a CrossFit space and know that they could protect themselves?
Well, feel like in a class, or I would say even one-on-one is a great way to start, because then you know that the coach is only looking at you.
Right.
So you can get a lot of, you can learn stuff quicker one-on-one. But eventually most people do like to go into a group class because that's what they see on the internet.
Yeah.
And just know that in a class that you feel like someone is watching you, and know that you feel safe. If the coach doesn't even know your name and you feel like you're doing it wrong and they're not picking it up at least every so often, well then maybe that CrossFit gym's not the best one for you, and have a shop around. It might not be CrossFit, it could be some other style of movement.
Yeah.
And use your own body as an experiment.
Yeah.
If you're getting chronic back pain from the CrossFit place you're going, or maybe they're not picking you up on the good quality movement.
Yeah, exactly. It could be a slight form shift or a slight adjustment. And even those adjustments, though, you got to have a bit of awareness to be able to implement them into your body. I'm sure you say do this, and people kind of they're wanting to, but they don't quite know how to actually action that part of their movement pattern. Yeah,
and I say it to my coaches all the time, and myself as well. What's the cue? What's the cue that is best for movement correction? And and it's the one that works.
Yeah, I was going to say, you almost need 10.
Yeah.
When I taught Pilates, it was about having the variety of the toolbox, because you could say it 10 times.
Yeah.
And they don't get it, and you say it that one different way, and boom, they've got it. So yeah, that's the quality of the instruction, isn't it? The variety of the cueing.
They'll show you, like, you say shoulders back and they don't do it. So we use verbal, visual, tactile. VVT is the approach. So if you're saying it 3 times and they're not getting it, well, verbal's not working.
Yeah.
Visually, you demo it, and then tactile, you say, here, there's your shoulders.
Touch. Yeah.
Get them back.
Yeah. Yeah. Different people.
Yeah.
The different colours might come into that, perhaps.
Definitely. Yeah. Colours. Check it out online. It's a free little quiz.
Yeah. I love that. I thought that was very cool. Good. All right, Ben. Well, it's Saturday. You've come in from surfing to get this done, so thank you.
No, I appreciate it. I'm glad.
And I hope everyone's listening's got a new perception of CrossFit and a new awareness that strength is a necessary part of the journey. But I guess it's got to be staggered at the right end of the recovery.
Yes,
I think throwing it too early on a system that doesn't move well and isn't aligned is a recipe for disaster.
Definitely.
But that doesn't mean we chuck it out. We just got to get the timing of implementation, and with good quality instruction, staggered progress. I think the only other thing I'd mention is the Waterfy app. I love that it's trackable and people can put in and progress their weights, because I think progress is happiness with rehab. If people can see from week to week any number, even if it's a repetition or a pound or a kilo or whatever, they're winning. They're moving forward. And that is so motivating for someone coming out of that space to see the numbers improve. Yeah,
for sure. It's a great little tool to, what is it? If you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
That's right.
And that helps people feel success.
Yeah.
Which improves people's participation. Yeah. Good stuff. All right. Cool. Thanks, Baz. Thanks. We'll chat soon. Shockers. See you in class this week. Be nice. I've got to always find this record button here. This is the best part at the end, when people don't think they're getting recorded anymore.